Hey everyone, welcome back to the Art of Save Scumming. Thank you for tuning in. And today I'm going to be starting into a new concept for this channel, and that is campaign reviews. I know there's some other folks out there that do campaign reviews, but what I'm going to do for this is in order to turn in a campaign review to you guys, I have to have played the campaign up through or exceeding turn 50. And the reason I'm doing this is I find myself kind of like going back into the same campaigns and just tweaking them to the max to try to get them to the min-max of all min-maxes. And I wanted to explore some more campaigns, and I'm kind of the personality that needs a reason to do that sort of thing. Like, for instance, I could just turn you in a quick head taker campaign like right now on turn 1. I could map it out for you how exactly you're going to do it from turn 1, and I would be pretty much 90% on because I've played that one so many times. However, there are several campaigns that I have just straight up not touched at all, and other ones that I've only played a little bit. So what I'm doing today is my Grombrindal campaign review. Now, I have played this 3 times, and prior to the playtesting on this one, I just never thought that Grombrindal was particularly interesting as a start. I opened it up once or twice, played a turn or two, and then basically just left it because it did not really understand the significance of what Grombrindal was doing. And that is, if you want to play a campaign that is kill all the elves, then this is your campaign. So if you want to go whack a whole bunch of Druki, Azray, and Asur, then this is the campaign for you, and it is set up to take it to the max. I think the most impactful thing about Grombrindal is his skill line. Now, some of this looks really familiar. You'll usually, with a Legendary Lord, see a special line here, maybe a secondary special line like we do here, and maybe some ancillary skills up here. Plus, you're going to have the, hey, buff the character, buff the army type stuff, and then the blue line. But the blue line, in my opinion, is the most impactful part of Grombrindal in total. In fact, I would venture to say that this is the first confederation that you should get as any other Dwarf Legendary Lord because he is such a strong confederate. And what I mean by that is there is only one skill in this entire blue line that is not a global bonus, and that is this one over here. So if we start, and we all know what Lightning Strike does. Let's go back to the very beginning here. Income from trade, 20%. Right off the bat, first skill input, 20% increase with a single point. And then you get recruit rank, +3 faction-wide with 3 skills. Then this one is recruitment cost, and these are for all armies faction-wide. And then this one is for all characters faction-wide, 15% movement range, which is huge. This one, character replenishment rate, +6%, all characters faction-wide, and then global recruitment capacity, right? The only other thing in here that is like super impactful is this one, and this is specifically for Grombrindal's army. And I don't really find Iron Drakes all that impactful. Like, I maybe get one of them and maybe a Trollhammer Torpedo. So maybe I'll get like a regular Iron Drake and put it towards the front, and then maybe, depending on how I'm doing in the campaign, I might have a Trollhammer Torpedo in there for anti-large. You see what I'm saying? However, when you're talking about your war machines, super impactful for Grombrindal's army to have war machines get it buffed like that. So those are really, I think, the major impacts for Grombrindal and his skill line. I want to go to the campaign objectives here, because if we go to short victory here, you have to destroy the following factions. Naggarond. So you have to take out Malekith and occupy, loot, raise, or sack 30 settlements. Now, remember, if you occupy, that counts as 1. If you loot, that counts as 1. If you raise, that counts as 1. Or if you sack, that counts as 1. So if you sack a thing and then you occupy it, that counts as 2. So very quickly, you can get that short campaign victory, which is +3 for all heroes. That means that if you want to do the Grumney hero spam to make your settlement buildings cost 0 on construction, then it's pretty easy to do that by like turn 20. I've got 6 of these Grumney characters. this building is free. And I've got 3 troops of these. And basically, getting that early helps you do that so that when you end up doing these constructions, I mean, these dwarf buildings are very expensive. These one, I mean, like, some of these, and particularly with the deeps, like if we were to look at this deep, 6,300 just to enable a deep, having those troops of Grunny characters running around is very impactful, and that is something that is considerably more viable in a Grombrindal campaign because you have the ability to achieve that short campaign victory very, very early in the campaign. But I'm going to go ahead and just bump this down to easy so I can quickly run through the strategy here. And I have extensively play tested this on Legendary very hard, so this can be done. So we're just going to attach that hero, and then we're going to go in here and go ahead and whack this. And same thing with this settlement. We're going to maybe go ahead and whack this, and we're taking out the Skaven. We're going to occupy this. And then here, we're going to build specifically this so that we have access to Quarrelers. And then we're going to, we have growth here, so we're going to get reduction here. And this is the only settlement, really, that you're going to prioritize the building of these for the purposes of reducing your construction cost province-wide. Because after we get those heroes, you'll basically have a troop of heroes that you can walk around with Gromny traits that will, that the local construction reduction is inconsequential. It won't matter once you get 5 or 6 characters that walk in there. For Grombrindal, we're going to go this one, and then we're going to get the Absolutely Relentless for an extra 5 campaign movement range. And this dude over here, we're going to skip Scouting because ultimately this guy's going to be a Sharpened Weapons character, and we're going to just go down his rune line. Then we want to raise a character. I suggest that you have a whole bunch of these Grunny characters saved so that you can pop them in every once in a while. It also adds to your research rate, but it doesn't really matter what you recruit as long as it is a Demon Slayer. So it must be a Demon Slayer.
Demon Slayer.
And this will be all apparent why. Grombrindal is now going to raise one of these guys and one of these guys. For your technology, either one of the first skills will work, and then we're going to move on. Now, what I'm going to do will have many of you bleed out of your eyeballs. We are going to force march Grombrindal into Skaven territory. And you're like, oh my god, force marching around the Skaven, are you nuts? Yes. And then this dude here is going to move just inside of our territory.
Something over there.
And he is going to recruit the same thing that Grombrindal recruited last time. Here we're going to go ahead and do this. And then our next technology should be the other one that only takes a turn. And the reason we do that is hopefully we'll get an archivist or a student from completing the research and then winning a battle. So that is our setup for turn 2. Moving on. Now we come to Grombrindal's special mechanic, which is kind of like half of a mechanic. It's just dilemmas. And this happens every 25 turns, but he has a skill in his skill line that reduces it by half. I, through my entire campaign, have basically run this entire thing because Grunny's teachings, especially in the early campaign, 20 research rate, upkeep for Grombrindal's army, construction costs for Grombrindal's region, and recruitment cost for Grombrindal's army. That's pretty good compared to some of these other ones that are just going to be less impactful at this stage. You could argue that if you're not particularly good with dwarf armies, that this one would be early campaign worthy. But based on how I run my campaigns, and I'm a legendary very hard player, so the army mastery with the dwarves is pretty high in my book, so I'm okay running this and not having the extra buffs that are provided by this one. So we're going to go with the Apprentice of Grundy. And now we're going to take this Lord. And before I do this Beastmen army is variable. It can end up here, here, or over here. And it does not matter which position it's in. I think that it's best to take it out now before it potentially becomes a problem, because eventually you will end up beat up at some point in time. And if this thing is still wandering around back here, it could whack one of your settlements when you're not paying attention. Or you could also think of it the other way. You could let it go and build some grudges, and then you could siphon those grudges for your Age of Reckoning. But anyway, we're going to take this guy here. He is going to besiege this settlement here. And then Grombrindal is going to reinforce this position, and then we're going to whack the settlement. This guy is then going to occupy the settlement, and because of the positioning here, we should be able to move in for some more points for both of these characters.
He wants it done right.
With Grombrindal's army.
All enemies shall tremble.
He is going to flee. And this is a level 1 Beastman army. They don't have any like Cygors or anything like that in there. So this is easy fodder at this juncture. Go ahead and take that down. We just got a little bit more experience.
Who calls me?
Go ahead and put these points in that we just got. You can attach whatever equipment that you want. And then, again, this is going to make your eyes bleed. We're going to force march into Malekith's territory. And from right here, Malekith will sit here and recruit. And you can catch him in this settlement with high degree of success. This guy is going to now recruit 2 Quarrelers.
What?
We got this, which is a duplicate. We're going to go ahead and delete that, and that's variable. Sometimes you get growth, sometimes you get the military building. Go ahead and swap it out for a growth building.
Slayer.
And then this for growth. And then here we want to go for here for growth again. Grombrindal can now catch Malekith inside of a minor settlement. He's got 14 units plus, you know, this piddly little garrison here that only has 1 missile unit in it. He can catch him in there. And if we march in these reinforcements...
But that armor's heavy, eh? Attack!
And let's just take a look and see. I forget what it is. Let's take a look and see what the manual resolve is on full battle difficulty in AI Cheeks. With full battle difficulty, this is a close victory auto resolve, and we lose a minor unit. You see what I'm saying? So we're not quite done here. So I want to show you a little bit more stuff. So we'll go ahead and maintain the integrity of the army so I can move this review along. We're going to go ahead and occupy the settlement. This dude is going to continue on. And I usually level them up into here for physical resistance. He's going to continue moving on. Here we're going to do this and this. And then this guy is going to raise another Demon Slayer. Again, doesn't matter what he is. Personally speaking, I prefer the Grundy trait. Go ahead and do that, and actually we should do that the other way around so that we get the benefit of construction cost reduction. And then this dude is going to raise whatever he can. We have to hold a defensive position here against the Skaven.
Dishonored.
Go ahead and distribute those points again right into there. And then I prefer to get the campaign, the casualty replenishment rate, because we are a little bit beat up. And then this dude is going to get sharpened weapons, and we're going to start or continue to move down that line right there. Now, as far as recruitment is concerned, depending on how you did in your battles, you may have more money than I do. Typically, I end up with a lot more money than this, and you likely will too, but I've been auto-resolving these with low battle difficulty just for the purposes of recording this. So, wherever you are, you want to prioritize the recruitment over here. So whatever you can recruit over here is more important than whatever you can recruit over here, because Grombrindal's army is in pretty good shape for this stage in the campaign. We're going to move Grombrindal to here, and his buddy here is going to sit right in front there. Now, the reason we've done this is because sometimes they will move an army up into here, and it's better if they move that army into Nagaron at a tier 2 settlement than it is down here and allow them to continue to recruit at Harganeth, which is going to be our next stop. So just keep that in mind, that if we have the ability to draw this army out, then we can. And actually, it's better if he's visible, now that I think about it. We've now drawn this army of shades, which shades against dwarves, we massively outrange shades. So that is why we have pulled this in here. Basically, they're going to sit back behind their walls, and we will be able to annihilate them. But we should be able to just auto-resolve this with the low battle difficulty. But fighting shades behind walls is actually easier than fighting shades in the open field. So we'll go ahead and do that. And here we are. We'll go ahead and we've taken Nagaron. And this dude, we want to move somewhere that he can't be seen, but not necessarily within our own zone of control. Now, the reason that we have taken this position here is because we are going to ultimately insulate ourselves from whatever's going up on here in Valkia's territory. We're going to do that by befriending these ogres and selling all this territory to them, and then they become the punching bag, because ultimately we're headed down here to deal with Silostra, these elves, Torox, kill Elithanar, and take all of his territory before we end up here. You see what I'm saying? And so the I'm going to show you one more turn on what we're going to do with this. And this should kind of show this is where the variability is going to come in. But this should pretty much drive home why we did what we did. This guy can now reach this settlement, which is going to have somewhere between half and a third of the Skaven forces that are in this area. So we know now that Skaven have 2 settlements. That means the rest of their forces are located here. We can take Grombrindal right there. And depending on how confident you are, you can either turn him right back around and go this direction and take on whatever's here, or you can march on the Skaven. Which brings us into the mature campaign for Grombrindal. And I guess what I would say when it comes to Grombrindal's campaign is, while this is a ton of fun, there are some shortcomings when it comes to this Age of Reckoning system. And I would say that he does not have the capacity that a lot of the other legendary lords have for getting to Namengrom pretty easily. In fact, I would say that I had to work to get over Namengrom. I did not fail one, but I was able to get all of them, but I needed some help. And what saves you really is that Grombrindal has 4 quest battles, each of which are worth 500 grudges. And the reason the calculus doesn't really work for Grombrindal when it comes to the Age of Reckoning is that none of these factions, if you think about them, when you think about Valkia, when you think about Hellbrand, when you think about Malekith, when you think about the Skaven, the Ogres, Silostra, Torox, Alithanar, all of those factions, even all the way down to Marathi here. Like, look at this. Marathi's cities are 126. Like, we're talking about taking cities up here, and that's on turn 56. We're talking about cities up here that have like 40 grudges. Armies that have like 100 grudges. Whereas if you think about like Ungrim's situation, Azag can have 1,200 grudges by the time you fight him. So we got to remember that how those grudges are accrued is by holding dwarven territory, or a member of that race fights a dwarven faction. So when you think about all of those factions that I named, none of them are doing that. You're isolated up here, and that kind of separates you from this mechanic a little bit, and you have to get over that. So to put this in perspective, we'll say that they were each 2,500. I was able to abuse it a little bit, 2,500 for each of those. They were a little bit less than that. Some of them a little bit more, but about 2,500. So that puts us at 2,500 times 4 is 10,000. I went from 7,500 to 16,000 in the last 15 turns. Or the last, it had been the last 10 turns I've gotten that many grudges. And that's because I'm over here in Norska. Because a lot of this territory is considered dwarven territory. And we've got Malachi over here. So those Norscan factions fighting any dwarves anywhere. So that includes any fights with Ungrim. That includes any fights with Malachi that are going on over here. The Norscan factions gain grudges turn to turn for holding dwarven territory and fighting with dwarven factions. So once you get over here, you're piling up a lot of grudges. Over here, not so much. So I suppose the only mistake that I would say that I probably made in this is I put a lot of the factions in the book instead of declaring war prematurely on them. And it seemed to me like you always sort of got that right before the next age. And in order to keep that grudge number low, I did not do any kind of declaring war on them through the dilemma system. I put them in the book. So maybe if you do that, maybe it'll be a little bit easier. Now, when it comes to my overall sentiment, if you are trying to roleplay as like the War of Vengeance type thing, War of the Beard if you're on the Elven side, if you're trying to do that, then this is your campaign. Because the other one that is really close to being able to do that would be Belagar, but he is pretty much predisposed to go for Carrick 8 Peaks, and his economy hamstring, because he doesn't hold Carrick 8 Peaks, is pretty debilitating. So really, when it comes to getting something like an Ulthuan invasion or something like that underway, really the only campaign that is capable of doing that in a reasonable time frame is Grombrindal. So I would say, again, call this one Kill All the Elves and have yourself a good time with Grombrindal. Other than that, when it comes to the rest of his faction, I would say that he is better confederated into another faction with more impactful effects than this thing going on up here, simply because of that skill line that I showed you at the beginning of the video. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Put in the comment section down below some ideas for campaigns that you would like to see reviews on, played out to at least turn 50.